morning, everybody. I have Ken Conklin with me today, and he has got such an interesting story to tell you and me about. I just got a little bit of information, and it just illuminated my mind about what somebody did in the 50s that created a monument and named a highway. So, Ken, tell us first of all how you got into writing and then why you wrote the book Norville.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. I've always been a writer. Since I was in the third grade, I've been writing, and I've written poems and articles and short stories my entire life. It is not what I did for a living, but it was more of a hobby, and I just really, really have enjoyed writing. In the living for living, I was in the technology industry and and those experiences have informed a lot of my writing. However, and I'm also a poet, and I've written many, many poems that have also been recognized, inspired by the singer-songwriters of the 1960s and 70s mainly,
Oh,
and, and I'm also a veteran of the Vietnam War, and came back from there and really did start writing poems at that point in time. But back to, but My career has taken me from California up to Vermont and down here to Virginia. I've been writing all the way in those different publications and all. When I got down here to Roanoke, the Roanoke area of Virginia, I was writing. I've written 50 to 60 commentaries that have been published in the Roanoke Times. Nothing political or religious. They were only more a slice of life and somewhat humorous type of columns that they had in there. One day, while I was sitting here over breakfast, having coffee, my wife brought to me a headline that was in our local weekly newspaper, and it simply said Botetourt County native won Olympic gold in the boxing ring. But that's not all that Norval Lee did. And this was in 2016 during the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. So I, and it was just, it was kind of he was not in those Olympics. This was from a long time ago. I was curious about what that was about, and I did what we all do these days. I got on Google, and I Googled Norval Lee's name, and very, very little information came up about him. By the way, a lot of information comes up now, but at the time, very little. But I found a boxing blog in Washington, D.C. called Boxing Along the Beltway. And I went through that, and he was covering this retrospective about Norval Lee on this particular one that I found. And they went back and forth, and they had some things wrong in the information, and they had the usual people that chime in on blogs and for commentary. And right at the bottom of it, it said, "Thank you, Gary, for doing this article about my grandfather." And so I thought, my, and I wanted to know more about the story. So I had she left her email address too. And so I chimed in and sent her an email, and that kicked off what for me personally was a journey of a lifetime. She and I went back and forth with emails. At the time, I was thinking of writing maybe a longer article about Norval Lee. But as we got into it and she started telling more of the story, I thought, well, this was just amazing. She lived up in the Washington, D.C. area in Maryland, in Bowie, Maryland. And she told me that Norval Lee's sister-in-law lived up in that area as well. And that she wanted us to all get together up there. And so I drove with my wife and I went up there into Upper Marlboro. It was Upper Marlboro where she lived. And so I drove up there and we went into the neighborhood, and my wife thought it'd be nice to take some local things from our farmers market up there, Gala apples and stuff like that. And it turns out Norval, the part of Botetourt County that Norval Lee grew up in, is Gala. Okay. Okay, so here we are, and I just have to say that we drove into this nice middle class neighborhood and stuff, but they didn't know what they were getting into, and so we walked into the house, and then for 3 hours, they brought out Olympic stuff and stripes and certificates, and they told this whole story. And it was then at that moment that I thought, this is a book. This is a story that needs to be told. So. The family, to this day, I'm close with the family and their grandchildren. My wife is too. We've had them. I'll go on in a moment. I then spent the next number of years researching it. I went to Howard University and went to their archive library, and they brought one of the things in this article was the fact that when Norval Lee came back from the 1948 Olympics, he came down here to very rural Botetourt County, and they had friends in a town nearby. He had to get on the train, so he went over there. And then when he was on the train coming back, he was sitting there were 4 or 5 people on the train. He was sitting in the white section of a segregated train, and he was arrested for doing so. And so I wanted to know. It turns out Norval appealed that. It went to the Virginia State Supreme Court, and the decision was overturned. So it was one of those, long before there was Rosa Parks, there was that decision and all. Anyways, but I wanted to know more about that story. So I went to Howard University. I went to the Library of Congress manuscript library and looked through a lot of documents there. And I could not find any bridge between how he ended up with some prominent attorneys. He ended up with the attorney appealing the case, the same people that brought the Brown versus Board of Education case to the Supreme Court. So he had one of those attorneys, defending him. So I wanted to know how all that connection was made. I'm sure it was made at Howard University somehow, but I could never get to the bottom of it. So what I did was I bookend my book with that story of the train ride and both ends of it. So I found out, then I went to the Board of Education here in Botetourt County when the schools were segregated in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Very neatly kept records, very, very neatly. I think they should be in a museum. They had a box of things for the white students. They had a box of material for the black students way back in those days. And I went through them and I found Norval Lee's report cards. He had straight A's in his school. He also had a pronounced stammer, which all the teachers made note of. And as later on in life, I've interviewed a lot of people that knew him and stuff. And it's almost the first thing they would say about him was his stammer, but it was almost like it was expected, and they all got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, all these stories, he became those days, because of his grades, he was selected to be a Tuskegee Airman. He was trained to fly, but because of his stammer, he was not assigned a unit. Yeah, I know, but he did serve in the South Pacific. I never saw any indicator that he took up boxing. The only thing I did at all is he might have worked as helping out on a boxing team in Manila with it was the U.S. Army Air Force in those days. Mm-hmm. And so then when he came back, he enrolled at Howard University. I'm giving the short version of the story, but he took up boxing at that point in time and very quickly became the top amateur heavyweight boxer on the Atlantic coast. He made the 1948 Olympics. He made the 1952 Olympics, and there's chapters in there. I've had many, many book clubs read the book, and everyone makes the mistake of thinking that this is a book about boxing, and nobody wants to hear about boxing. However, and there, it is a good part of the story, but there's a romance in the story. There's the social issues that are in the story. There's the uh, one of the things I discovered was after he was became a prominent educator in the Washington, D.C. area. He worked at the National Training School for Boys, where juvenile delinquents are at. He met a group of guys there, and every lunch period they would sit down and play the game of pinochle. Well, it turns out after they left there and went on to their other careers, they continued playing pinochle at each other's houses for 40 years. And
Oh,
what you had was a black Baptist, a white Jewish guy, a white Catholic. Okay, and they all got together and they all played cards together for 40 years. I got to interview one of the pinochle players, uh, and and one of the remarkable things about that interview was, even though he had this big civil rights case that he's involved with, I was the one that told the pinochle player about it. He had, for 40 years, the case was never brought up. And that was indicative of Norval Lee's personality. He always went on to the next day. He became a pretty successful real estate person in the Washington, D.C. area, prominent educator, wonderful grandchildren. And so when the book came out, it got quite a bit of local attention because I'm kind of known as a writer in the area. The local newspaper picked up, they did an editorial on it, and we had some of the leaders in the area get a hold of it, and they took it forward to the state of Virginia. And Virginia legislature unanimously approved putting together a historical mark and renaming the highway, the Norval Lee Memorial Highway, right here in Botetourt County. And it's US 220 in the northern part of this. And so we had a unveiling in September of 2022 for it. And the family came in. So the family came in, and we took them up to the church that they used to when Norval was growing up at, where his mother is interred at. And there's a little gravesite there. There's a whole backstory to that as well. It was a wonderful event. It was well covered by the media here. If you go to my website, there's some links to the media coverage on there.
okay.
And Tiffany, Norval's granddaughter, works for TSA in Nome, Alaska. She's in charge of the TSA facility there in Nome, Alaska, and she came here for the ceremony as well. And she's one of the speakers at the event. So it was very, very you write a book, and you do anything with writing, it's like you have a little bird in a cage, and you're doing it, and then you open the door and let the bird fly away, and you have no idea what it's going to do out there. And that was the case with this book, and it has been very, very satisfying to have written something that's made a difference in people's lives, the grandchildren's lives, and certainly the here in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, very far reaching, and due respect given. I just, as you were talking, I was getting goosebumps
Mhm.
about the rightness, the rightness that it happened, and the fact that there were, Rosa Parks was really an astounding event, but there were other small victories that
Yes,
happened that, everybody just kind of took it in stride.
yes,
Uh, and it's wonderful to find somebody who found out about those things and reported it, because that's what needs to be out.
yes,
That is part of our history of this nation. It doesn't deny the good or the bad, it just
right,
tells it like it was.
yes.
And I'm so pleased to have you here and talking about that, because
Well,
that is something young people need to read,
yes,
not just
yes.
us old
Right.
of certain age
Mhm.
people, but
Mm.
the young ones.
Yes.
It-
I've given several, quite a few book talks in the area or in here in Virginia, and I have actually out west. We have family in Oregon. I've done a couple out there and participated with some book clubs, and it's interesting. The once people pick up the book, and get into the story, it's not a story about boxing.
yeah,
So,
yeah. But he was a boxer,
he was a boxer, and
and it
yeah,
tells you that he doesn't have to limit himself to that.
right.
He went all the way.
He
If
famously said after he was 27 years old when he won the Olympic gold medal in Helsinki, Finland. And at age 27, he had people come up to him and offer him to go pro. And his answer, and it's quoted in one of the newspapers, his answer was, "I'd rather make an honest dollar." So,
I don't know, some of my friends, I had some friends out in California,
mhm,
and I was with Mary Kay at the time, cosmetics, but I helped them set up events
mhm,
and set up the prizes and stuff like that. But they were all boxers
mm, wow.
and, of renown.
Mhm,
And then I found out that the golf course that we had it all, because he also liked to golf,
mhm.
um, turned out that Tiger Woods learned how to play golf there with his father.
Yes. And where was this again?
That was in Golden Era in just north of Hemet, or would that be west? No, that would be north. It's like the highway apart.
Huh? Yeah.
Golden Era Studios.
Yeah.
They also own
Yeah.
the golf course there.
Yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. We have a one of there's a chapter in the book that Norval uh, uh, Norval went to Europe with an amateur team over there, and one of the boxers he was with was a guy named John Boudelier, who was from Southern. Turns out I looked him up and I met his daughter in Southern California. And so he was part of that boxing community. He became a teacher finally and got into education too, but he was originally from Boston. And I just was wondering if there was a connection there because he was very active in that whole area as well. Hmm.
It could have been.
Mhm.
A lot of them I can't remember their name because I'm not big
Yeah,
into boxing. But
yeah,
the gentleman that started it, he was a redhead, and
okay,
I was a redhead, so just kind of. But his name was Richard, and he was a featherweight
okay, okay.
amateur boxer.
Hmm. Yeah,
But he, and almost all of the people that were putting it on was some level of amateur boxing, but
hmm,
they knew the professionals
hmm.
and got them to come in and sign stuff, and it was just neat meeting them, even though it wasn't a sport that I'm
Yeah,
heavily involved in.
sure.
I was more of a volleyball fan,
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
water skiing,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Good.
So,
Hmm.
but it was interesting being exposed.
Hmm.
And that's what I like about your book. It exposes so much. And if people look at it and then look at what you did to research it, to
Yeah.
find that there are records of things that they never even thought of.
Yeah, and that is the journey. That to me, I mean, writing is you put writers want to be read certainly, but we also, I mean, for me, I just that whole journey was life changing. I learned so much about a field that I wasn't that involved with, and I met so many engaging people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And also this area of Virginia, one wouldn't know it by just looking at it, but we have a very deep and robust writing community here. And
Mhm.
some well-known best-selling authors across the nation are in here, and we're all kind of get together and talk about stuff. And this, again, this wouldn't have happened for me had I not, reached out and written
Mhm.
this and doing my other writing as well.
Yeah. I know I kind of feel that way about where we moved. When we moved up here into the White Mountains in Arizona from
Mhm.
California, I had, well, I wasn't even a writer at the time.
Yeah.
I became a writer.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's always been in me because I've always wanted to write,
Hmm.
but I spoke more than I wrote.
Right. Right.
Arf, arf, speak, Callie, speak. But it, the biggest thing I found here was the authors weren't recognized.
Hmm.
They were recognized at large,
Hmm.
being number one of this or number one of that, or in the
Hmm.
top 200 or top 100. One of my friends, when she launched her first book, it was number one in serial killers,
Okay.
as a mystery writer.
Hmm.
And that was her very first book.
Hmm.
So it just, but they aren't appreciated.
Yeah.
So um, we started an organization, we became part of an organization,
Hmm.
Arizona Professional Writers.
Okay.
And every state could have a chapter
Hmm.
of this. So
Hmm.
it would be like Virginia Professional Writers. It's under the National Federal Women's Press.
Okay. Okay. Because
Because in the early 1900s, when women became reporters, they were refused
yeah.
the press room.
Right. Right.
But through that, we've started doing events,
Hmm.
and the writers are coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. Well, no, so one of the things that happened is I queried a lot of agents for this book and couldn't land one. That's a whole other story,
Mm.
trying to find an agent. So I ended up self-publishing this, and because of that, I have a publishing company as well that's keeping me very busy. I'm now publishing. It's called a mostly local writers that have the same
Hmm.
issue. They can't get an agent and they want to do things. So I'm engaged in that process too. And what's great about it is it keeps me involved with the writing community. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, do you have a certain genre that you publish the most
Well,
of,
it,
or?
it turns out I've had quite a few poetry and memoir type of books. Here's one that's just coming out. This is actually a friend of mine from Vermont who wrote this,
Okay,
and
okay.
uh, and we've had uh, oh, yep, we've had several books. I have my own book of poems right here, The Zen of Ken.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. That's cool.
yeah.
Now, a question about your publishing. Um, do you do the formatting? Do you also do help with the advertising,
I
or?
yeah, I gave a talk at the Roanoke Regional Writers Conference a few years ago about the do's and don'ts of self-publishing, and on it is as a self-publisher, you're wearing three distinct hats. You're the creator, you're the producer, and you're the marketer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'd like to say the role that we fill, we try to position ourselves to those that just aren't confident enough to do or want the heartache of doing a self-publishing thing. So we really wear the producer hat. We 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 don't edit. We ask that a book minimally be proofread by someone other than the author, and that and ideally actually copy edited. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't provide that service. We absolutely we work with a book designer who formats all the books and does the cover design and all that. She has worked on every one of our books. She's actually out of New York, and we have just a great relationship with her. She does a wonderful job. And then what we do is we distribute the books through Ingham Spark.
Mm-hmm.
We do print books, and they're distributed worldwide through Ingram and on all the usual sites. And we also use the Amazon. We do the ebook. We we will do ebooks in any format, but since Amazon owns 80% of the ebook market, you get certain benefits by going exclusive with Amazon. And so marketing type benefits. As far as marketing goes, we certainly put it on our website and circulate it on our Facebook page and do that kind of thing. But it's really up. I don't care whether you're just a minor little author or whether you're David Baldacci or somebody like that. That marketing of a book, even when they come out with a new book, a lot of it falls on that author's shoulders. That
Mm-hmm.
it has to do with their author profile, their social presence, and all. We will counsel and our authors what steps to take to do that. I really believe in starting local. Get involved with your local independent bookstore. Be involved with your local writing groups. Use your own social network of people to get the word out, and then let your platform grow from there. There's a lot of social media sites that you can use these days, but some of them cost some money. There's
Oh
ways of
yeah.
getting around that, and so you just have to pick your places. But we don't do that as well. But we try to be very supportive of the authors. But we're really that hat in the middle where we produce it and get it out there. And we pay 100%. I like to say that what it costs for us to produce the book is probably about in the same line that would if you self-published it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just about between going through everything you need to do and all. And what we do is we pay 100% of the royalties up until you've made your money back, and then we take 25% of that just for administrative purposes. However, I just have to say this: you really, really have to have a big best-selling author to make up that money, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah. I've been doing my books
yeah.
for
Right,
taxes. So yeah,
yeah,
that's a hard look at what you really are making.
right.
Um, but it is something that most people have to walk through.
Hmm.
I was talking to or writing, somebody had put something out in an email, and they were talking about launching a book and what to do and stuff like that. And I wrote him and I said, not everything works for everybody. You'll find always somebody saying they've got the perfect way. You need to find something that resonates with you
Yes.
and what you like to do, where you like to be, how many
Mhm.
people you have on your email list. In fact, I was talking to somebody else this morning, and it's a business
Mhm.
shop, and they've got a domain name now, and they have, but they don't have the website up yet.
Mhm.
And I said, well, now is when you need to start collecting names.
Right.
And they're
Right.
like, what?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, collect now
Mhm.
and let them know that they're going to be the first ones to
Yes.
get their newsletter from
Yes.
you.
Yes. Yeah. That's that whole advanced and yeah,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah,
they're getting the word out and getting the level of anticipation.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But I've tried all kinds of ways of launching books because I do anthologies and I do novels. And so far, I haven't found the perfect one for me. But that's okay.
Hmm.
It's a work in progress.
Hmm.
I will find it when I find it.
Hmm. And
And
do you have like a newsletter that you send out or uh, uh, I've been I counsel our authors to do that, and then I have fallen down myself. It takes time, and I haven't been doing it, and I I should. So
yeah, I have a website, but I had to move it to a different platform, and then that fell through. And now I hopefully will have it next week,
okay.
but it's been months.
But BookBub has just started offering that service.
Yes, and that is, I was telling another young man that was new, to the writing world and new to the idea. I said, hey, $15 a month and you got a website?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's to argue with that?
Right. And their templates look pretty good. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Because I went in and looked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that is very, very affordable on somebody who is on a skin tight budget.
Right.
So,
yeah.
and that's what I was going to say, is that is wonderful that you may not provide the marketing, but in a sense you do, because you give them options.
Mm-hmm.
You tell them some of the different steps that they can take, but it's up to them to make the choice because it's based on their genre, who they know, who wants it, what age group they're addressing.
Right.
All of that has to go into the mix.
Right.
And I applaud you for that.
Yeah. We do something that I think that I'm really surprised at a lot of these independent publishers. I don't see it on there. We always get a Library of Congress number too. It's an easy thing to do. It doesn't cost anything. And the only thing you're obligated to do is to send a print copy of the book to the Library of Congress. And so we give that, and it's more of just a personal satisfaction thing. I just like to say I have a book that's in the Library of Congress.
That is something, because one of the things that I've always wanted was to leave a legacy. Not necessarily a financial one, because like I told my dad was telling me, I've got all this money, I'm going to leave it to you and your sisters and your brother. And I'm like, Dad, you earned it, play.
Yeah, right.
It's my responsibility to pay for my play.
Yes.
So I want something that is tangible, that somebody can say, I had a great grandmother that was an author.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Break the mold.
Yes. Yes.
So that, to say it's in the Library of Congress, would be a cachet.
Yes.
It would be. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Just go online and look Library of Congress, and they'll give you a number and all that. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And everyone that's listening, remember that Library of Congress only costs you the shipment and the book.
Yes.
And you've
got to, of course, you have an email exchange. They assigned you the number and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to say, and this book is in the Library of Congress?
Yes.
So, I love it. Love it. Ken, this has been so wonderful chatting with you and being able to introduce you to my friends and the other people that will be watching it on YouTube. This has been a joy.
It has been, Kathleen. I've very, very much enjoyed talking with you and everybody that's out there listening.
That's great. And now, everyone, I'm going to have a card at the end, and it's going to have contact information for Ken, both his website and just his personal, whatever he's going to give me, and also where you can purchase his book.
Yes. Good. Okay.
So welcome again to our family of interviews.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.